I make $4 million per year in revenue in my concrete company, and over the past 8 years, I've learned all kinds of lessons the hard way. And so in this video, I want to shortcut your success by sharing a lot of the lessons and failures that I've had along the way. So that way, ideally, you don't have to make them just like me, and you can get to the level that I'm at and hopefully even more a lot faster. One of the things that I've learned along the way is how to be patient. So when I first started in business, I thought, and I even thought that I was patient. I was like, well, yeah, I don't expect to be rich right away. And I think a lot of people going into business, they're like, yeah, things are gonna be hard. I'm not gonna be rich right away. But the thing is, imagine going through your first, say, full year and you barely made any money. And you worked twice as hard as you did as an employee, and you made either the same or less money. And you're like, okay. And then you do that again, right? At the end of my second year, I'd done $1.2 million in revenue that year, and I had no profit to show for it. And so you think that you're patient when you first start, until you realize you go through this crazy hard time, and typically it happens right in the beginning because you don't know what you're doing, and you're probably making tons of mistakes. That's why you're watching this YouTube video. And then you get there, and then that is when your patience is tested. Right? A lot of people, when they go into business, are like, oh yeah, I am patient. But you don't know what it means to even be patient until you are so tested from all the trials and tribulations that you're gonna go through. And what I realize is most businesses, when they first start, okay, they don't actually fail due to failing. They fail due to quitting because it's just way more difficult than they thought it was. But what you have to realize is if you're patient and persistent and you get over the stuff that you just need to conquer, you just have to get through it, then getting out on the other side, it's not like it's super easy and sunshine and rainbows, but it is way better and it only gets easier over time. Another one is humbleness. And I experienced this pretty dang bad in the very beginning of my business, okay? And I remember very specifically, and again, a lot of us, you're gonna say, Tyler, no, I am humble. Everyone thinks they're humble, okay? But imagine being tested. So here's how my humbleness was tested in the very beginning of the business, okay? Like I said, at the end of my second year in business, I'd done $1.2 million in revenue and I had almost no profit. And I remember I was just sitting there so frustrated. I was so mad. I was like, man, if only I could just charge the type of prices that I wanted to charge, because all these other super cheap concrete guys out there are basically ruining the market. I was just blaming everyone else. It's like, oh, the market sucks, it's my competition. I have all these freaking competitors, they're just idiots. And I was sitting there, and then I remember I paid for a Facebook group, so it was a paid Facebook group, and I remember I went on there and I had this really long rant. I typed up something like, this is so ridiculous, and I'm so pissed, and blah, 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 blah. And then I remember there was this one guy, very successful, everyone knew that he was successful, and he was like, well, Tyler, like, dude, you have to learn how to raise your prices. And instead of me going at him in a wanting to learn way, I was like, what? Because basically what he said is like, I charge $15 a square foot for concrete replacement. And at the time, I was only charging like 7 or 8. So he was double my price. I would have been so rich if I would have just shut up and listened to this guy. But back then, I had so many experiences of being told no. So many times where customers told me I was too expensive. So many times where I was already being shut down. Instead of listening to the guy who was making more money than me, I straight up just didn't believe him. I thought he was stupid. And I was like, no, man, I know better than you. You don't understand my market. Your market's better. This, and that. And I just totally shut him out. So a big part of being humble is being open to realizing that you are just 1,000% wrong and you're doing things completely the wrong way, and someone else knows how to do business better than you. And I'm not saying that everyone does, but what you have to realize is there's some people out there who do. And if you pass those times by, like if I would just listen to that guy in the moment and shot him, say, a private DM, been like, dude, how do you actually do this? Like, please help me. Like, whatever, I'll pay you. Like, I could have made so much more money, but because I wasn't humble and I thought that I knew better than him and I was basically making excuses and my ego was getting in the way because I didn't want to admit that I was wrong, it cost me so much time and money. And do not let that happen to you guys in your business. And quick side note before we move on with that is, yes, absolutely listen to people who are making more money than you. But then what you have to do is inverse that at the same time, and you have to ignore everyone who's poor, okay? And I know it's gonna sound crazy. They might have all the logic in the world. Like, if you would have talked to 2019 me, I would have had so many well thought out reasons of why I could not charge the prices that I was charging. or why I couldn't charge higher prices, why this, and that. I had so many logical explanations, and I actually probably sounded pretty smart because I had talked myself into this like separate world, built this box, and I lived in that little box. So what you have to do is you got to be very careful. When you're around poor people, they're going to try to fit you into their little box. And that reality might be totally true for them. But what you have to realize is if you want something different, you cannot listen to those people, no matter how smart they sound, no matter how much logic they have. You have to avoid it like the plague. Get the heck out of those people's lives. You have to surround yourself with people who are farther ahead of you, who can actually break your barriers of belief and show you what is possible, not limit you. Another thing, and I like to call this the number one rule of business. Okay, this is the number one rule. So imagine business is a game, okay? And there's only one rule of the game. And what is that rule? That rule is you just never stop playing the game. That's all business is. It's just a game, and the whole goal of the game is to never stop playing. And so what does that mean? That means that we do not make super risky decisions in our business that can end us, okay? And that's something that I wish that I realized going back, or what I see even a lot of people doing now, right? There's a reason why we qualify people in our agency. We don't want people spending their last dime on marketing. Because what if you get a bunch of leads and you don't even know how to sell them, right? That would be considered a business-ending mistake. You don't want to always put all your chips on the table, because what happens if there's something weird that happens or things don't go right? Just remember, things are always going to be harder than what you expect. So you can't make these business-ending decisions, right? Like say, for instance, like let's just say if you've got 30 grand and you're like, man, I could go buy a truck in cash for like 28,000, or I could finance a newer one and it's gonna be $1,000 a month payments. And you're like, you think that you're doing the smart thing, right? Of buying a truck in cash, because now you don't have payments, okay? So what happens? You go buy that truck in cash and all of a sudden your engine blows out and you're like, holy crap, I don't have money to fix it. Then you go into debt and you have problems. The biggest thing you have to realize is sometimes what you do is you limit the downside risk of right now in case things go wrong, right? You wanna have emergency funds. You don't wanna take on risks that you can't handle. You don't wanna grow too fast, right? You wanna take things off in bite-sized pieces, not shove so much in your mouth that you end up choking and dying. So just remember that. You always wanna make decisions that don't end the game, because that's the only rule of the game, is to not lose. Hey guys, if you guys are liking this YouTube video and you think that this stuff is good information, I do wanna remind you guys that this is all just my free stuff that I put out on YouTube. My paid stuff is so much better than what I do here for YouTube. And on top of that, a lot of this stuff is contextual and is based on your business. And we have two main programs. I have Concrete Business Mastery, where I basically give all of the information, all of my tools, all of my cheat sheets, all of my Excel sheets, all of that all in one. I give it to you and then I even help you implement it, okay? So that's more about just getting the information and learning from me. We also have another program where I implement my marketing systems right into your business, and I basically act as your marketing partner within your company. So if either of those programs sound good to you, I'll leave links down below in the description. All right, here's another one, and it's focus on what makes you the most money, okay? The goal of business is not to be busy. I cannot stand when I get this as an answer. I'm like, hey man, how's your business doing? And they're like, oh man, it's going good. I'm busy. And I'm like, okay, what the heck does that mean? Like, busy doing what? Like, let me give you guys a great example. Okay, when I was first starting my business, I didn't know how to do any type of pre-qualifying leads. Okay, so what I did is I thought I was doing a great job in business, because when someone would call me, they would want a quote, I would just drive out there. I wouldn't ask them nothing. I wouldn't say, hey, when do you want the project done? I wouldn't even ask them what they wanted. I would just be like, yeah, you want to try to potentially give me money? I'll just drive out and then we'll like talk in person, which like, think about how stupid that is in a day and age where we have phones. I refused to talk on the phone. I was like, I'll just talk to you when I see you. Totally stupid. But anyways, what I would do is I would just drive around everywhere. And that's what I was doing. I was just going nuts. I was going super crazy. And I thought that I was doing good at business because I was busy. When in reality, I was making a very stupid decision. I was wasting half my day driving to people that would never, ever give me money, right? Ever. But I thought, I wasn't even thinking about that, because I was like, man, well, if I'm busy, then I'm doing good. And that's how a lot of concrete guys think. But what you have to realize, and I hate using this because it's like a cliche, that like, don't work harder, work smarter. I kind of hate that because in reality, you should work smarter and harder. But what you want to be doing is doing things that will make you money. And what you want to focus on are certain things that I call compound effect actions, right? Like you want to do something that gives you a multiplying effect on your money. So say, for instance, an example of what that would be is when I was driving around and I wasn't doing that, well, what did I do? One is I learned how to pre-qualify leads on the phone. So now instead of driving out to every single bid, I was only driving out to like 50% of the bids, because the first 50% of the people, I could have literally shown up, been the best salesperson ever. I could have been the best thing since sliced bread, and those people would have never bought from me because they were just either dead broke or they had unrealistic expectations or whatever it was, right? So one is I learned a skill that multiplied my time, right? I invested into a group. I think at that time, actually, it was Tom Reber and his sales group. Actually, still a pretty good group. I would recommend that. I invested in that, and I spent, what was it, like 10 hours, give or take, learning. And you know, in the moment, a lot of people, they're flying around. They're like, man, I don't have 10 hours to sit down and learn. I'm like, what are you talking about? I spent 10 hours in 1 week, learned a new skill, and now I saved 10 hours every week. So I invested 10 hours, then I saved 10 hours, saved 10 hours, saved 10 hours, saved 10 hours, all the way into eternity, right? So that is a compound action. You do things that make your business better forever, okay? And you always want to be doing that. Now let's take that same sales example to the next level, right? Let's just say later, I learned how to have sales automation. So now instead of texting every single lead, I set it up and all of my leads gets texted on autopilot. I send people an estimate, they're being followed up with an autopilot. Before I was doing all that manual. See, so I took the time to set up the systems once, and now they've worked for me year after year after year, and you guys gotta start focusing on that, okay? The goal is not to be busy. You wanna build things that save you time. You wanna focus on things that will make you money over time, not just today, but over time. All right, and last thing with focus, okay? Because everyone does this. You're gonna get in business, and let's just say you get a little bit of success. And I see this happen all the time. And business is still hard, but maybe you made a little bit of money. Maybe you made like 100K. And you're like, man, that was really hard to make that 100K. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my 100K and I'm gonna go spend it elsewhere. I'm gonna say do like a flip, fix and flip. And what you have to realize is that's a whole new craft in itself. So instead of you spending that money, investing in your business, whether it's in skills, new machines, maybe you're gonna hire help, etc., do not take that money and try to go make money elsewhere. Think about the guy who ran Chick-fil-A, right? When he was first starting and he was selling these chicken sandwiches, there was probably tons of people. And they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, instead of selling just chicken sandwiches, you could sell a burger and then you could double your revenue, right? And it sounds very logical. Or even better, they say, man, or you could just open up on Sundays and you'll get 1/6 extra of revenue just from that. And it sounded very logical. But what did he do? He stayed true to what they were, and he just constantly improved. And now they are the most profitable, basically fast food chain in America, and they're all ran internally. They own everything, okay? So what did that take? It took focus and the art of saying no to shiny objects, okay? And I have fallen into this so many times. I started a landscape company, right? I did that for a little bit. I bought real estate investments that I'm currently trying to get out of. I've made these mistakes and I see people do them over and over again. I am telling you, if you want to make the most money, it's the person who could stay focused and just confront the demons that are currently holding them back from scaling their business, okay? A lot of times we hit a roadblock in business, it gets super hard, and instead of dealing with it, we just try to look elsewhere at something that's easier, and it's never easy. Another one is perception is reality, okay? So a lot of people, they go around and they tell customers, they say, oh, I'm really organized, customer, but do you actually look organized, right? Are you clean shaven? Do you have a nice, well-maintained beard? Or do you got some crazy looking beard? You're out there looking like Jesus, right? Do you actually look nice? Did you shower? Do you have nice clothes, right? So just realize if you tell a customer that you're organized, but you look like crap, they look at your truck and you've got stuff all along the dash. You're not, they will not believe you, okay? So just realize that humans have this innate nature to read into people. And it does not matter what you say. How they perceive you is how they are going to think. So if you do not look organized, they will not believe that you're organized, right? If you don't look clean and well put together, or say for instance, if you don't have like a nice looking website, but you're like, oh yeah, I take my business so seriously, but then you look like you run your business like a freaking lemonade stand with some like homemade sign, and that's your marketing. Like, does it actually look like you're taking your business seriously? You know what I mean? So just realize is perception is reality. And I remember this even going way back to like the 7th grade. And what was so funny is I dressed like a total punk. I was like the old like skater kid that was like super mad at the world. The funny thing is I didn't even do anything bad. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I was super clean, but I looked like I caused problems. And so I remember I would go to stores and people would give me nasty looks. People would be like, because they thought I was there to steal. They're like, oh man, this guy is certainly here to steal, or he's gonna do something bad. And because I looked like a thug, I got treated like a thug. So what you got to realize, it's the same thing for you in your business. If you do not look professional, if you don't look organized, it does not matter if you are professional. It doesn't matter if you are organized. If you say that you have great work, but your pictures look like total crap, well, they're not going to believe you, okay? If you say that you have so many happy customers and you have no reviews, then no one's going to like you, okay? It's the same thing. What you have to start caring about is your perception. Because your perception is how people are going to judge you, whether you like it or not. Because we only have very split seconds to interact with our customers, and they're not going to believe every word that you say, but they will judge you based on little cues that you give off, whether you like it or not. All right, another one is find the best people and pay them, okay? Pay them well, okay? All I know is I have seen so many high-level operations when it comes to business, okay? And the people who make the most money, they are not the people with the absolute mass of teams. Some of them, yes, and for the really, really, really big companies, yeah, some of them have a lot of people. But if you're gonna be a small company, what I've seen is it pays far better to have a small team. Think of a team like the Navy SEALs, or think of a team, for instance, like back in the day, right, the Spartans took out the whole Persian army. There was like 300 of them, and I don't know how many people it killed, but it was like 2,000, 3,000 people. And what I've noticed is small companies who are full of just total badasses way outperform. And where most people go wrong, and what I did when I went wrong too, is in the very beginning, I had a poor person mindset. And I was like, man, if I want to make more money, I have to find people who I could barely pay anything. And so that's what I did. But then I would always have problems, right? And what you have to realize is it's beyond even just having problems. Number one is better people can just straight up do more. It's like insane. But I've seen some people say, for instance, that make 35 bucks an hour, and they would outperform the work of 3 people making 20 bucks an hour. So if you think about it, you'd either pay this group of 3 people $60 an hour, this person $35 an hour, this person performs better. But here's the other untangible things that you have to consider, right? Is there's more cost than just the cost of what you're paying people, okay? Number one is mistakes. How often do you have to go back and fix all the crap that these super cheap, unskilled people do? Probably a lot. Or you're gonna pay with time. A lot of people forget that their time is valuable as the owner. So if you want the ability to have time to go out and sell more jobs, market your business, post content, right? Basically go make more money, then you have to have people you could trust to run your job site when you're not there. Okay, because if you think you could be the job site manager, the estimator, and you're just gonna do every single thing in your business forever and you're gonna make all types of tons of money, no, absolutely not. You need good people around you, and good people are worth a lot of money. And so, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying just pay a dud a ton of money. If you pay someone a super high wage and they suck, then fire them. Just move on, get someone else. But the point of the matter is, you need good people around you, and don't settle for crappy people. I've done that way too long when I was first new in business, and I felt way too bad about letting people go, and it seriously hurt my income potential. Just don't do that. I am telling you, you're gonna make more money by just having good people around you. All right, another one is don't scale up too fast, okay? I see a lot of people, and they make a little bit of money, and not even a lot, like I'm talking a little. And then they think, hey, in order for me to make more money, I'm gonna hire more people. And eventually, what they do is they hire more people, but now they're split super thin. They're like, oh man, they have a crew over here and a crew over here. They're running around like crazy because maybe they were doing what I said before, they don't have great people. So they have to babysit all the time. There's all these mistakes. And all of a sudden they're working more than they've ever worked and they're not actually making money, okay? And here's the thing, is what you have to do in the very beginning is you wanna focus on being super profitable. Because in the very beginning, it's the easiest. Just remember, you're the one controlling the job in the beginning. Also in the beginning, you're the one selling. You're always gonna be your company's best salesman, almost for sure, okay? You're doing the project management, you're doing all this stuff. So you're doing the work of like 4 or 5 people when you first start, and you're doing unbelievably efficiently and well. So if you try to scale a business based on you doing everything and you barely make money, then it's gonna be almost impossible for you to scale. Because you're gonna try to hire, for instance, like a salesman. And then that salesman's gonna go out and they're gonna suck. They're not gonna be as good at selling as you. So all of a sudden your margins go down, and because your margins go down, well now all of a sudden your business is totally screwed because you didn't build up this huge nest egg of profit first, okay? And then same thing, right? You're gonna be like, hey, when I was a salesman, I did this and I did this and I managed the crew and I did this. And you're gonna look at someone and be like, why can't you do that? But these people are employees, they are not an owner. You can't expect them to do all these things. So instead of replacing you with one person, you're gonna have to replace you with like 4 people that are each making like 70K. So think about that. To replace you is gonna cost like 280K. So before you grow, man, I know so many people. There's one guy in particular, he's actually in my local market. It's him plus 3 guys, and he's done that forever. Granted, he could easily scale up and he just doesn't want to, but he makes $250,000 of profit, like actual take home money in the bank at the end of the year, and he just has this super small team. And I've seen it time after time again. You should be making at least 200K as the owner before you start to scale, my opinion, because man, it's gonna be so much easier to scale when you're making $200,000 as a business owner. You can afford to pay an office manager 50K. And then yeah, go out and sell more high profitable jobs. But if you haven't learned how to sell high profit jobs, sell jobs for more money, it gets even harder to figure out how to do it later when you have even more to manage. Just don't do that. All right, another one is to uphold your reputation, okay? And a lot of people get this backwards, okay? And I did too, because in the very beginning, I was like, man, just do whatever the customer wants because the customer's always right. And that was my mentality. But I realized that was actually wrong, okay? And here's the reason why I say that was wrong. Is now, instead of just doing whatever the customer wants, I do whatever's right. But here's the big difference, okay? Is I set expectations on the front end. Actually, literally just today, this guy got super mad over a hairline crack. And we basically were like, hey man, we're not gonna cover that. And he like stomped his feet, all this stuff. And keep in mind, this almost never happens anymore in my business because we're normally pretty good at catching it beforehand. And he's like, this is so ridiculous, blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna leave a bad review. And I was basically like, yeah, man, I mean, you're more than welcome to leave a bad review, but may I remind you that this is the very first line item on your agreement is saying that we do not cover hairline cracks. However, we cover cracks that get 1/4 inch wide and we cover it for 3 years. So if your crack ever opens up, then yeah, we're gonna cover it. But right now we're not, because right now it's not deemed warrantiable. And then, you know, he still stomped off. And the point of the matter is, even if he leaves a bad review, which I highly doubt it, because we are gonna work with him, we are trying to go above and beyond to make him happy. But I've had only a couple bad reviews in the past. And what I've realized is part of having a good reputation is just not selling to the crazy people to begin with. Like, I can't tell you guys how long it's been since I've had a crazy person yell at me for a hairline crack. And that's the main reason is during the sales process, if someone says, well, yeah, I don't want my concrete to crack. I'm like, oh, whoa. Hey, like all concrete cracks, what are you talking about? And if they are super persistent that they have these crazy expectations, then I send them elsewhere. I say, yeah, go work for so-and-so. And man, give them money. Because even if you give my competitor money, the chances are if that person has any type of bad experience, they're gonna tell all these people. So a lot of having a good reputation is just setting proper expectations on the front end and avoiding working for people altogether that just totally suck. And also making sure that they just know everything going into it, right? Like, hey guys, we're gonna schedule your project. Like in the very beginning, I would just schedule someone for a certain day, but then we'd get up to that day and I'd be like, man, I've had all kinds of rain. Of course they're gonna understand that we have delays. But if I told them after the fact, they hated me. So now what do we do? When someone signs on, we say, hey, we're thinking that we're gonna get you in 3 weeks. However, we have delays. We have rain delays, etc. And so that will actually be very probable to happen. Is that okay with you? And because we said that, now they don't get mad. So a big part of having a good reputation is setting proper expectations, not working with the wrong people. And of course, if you do make a mistake, then do not try to get out of it. Just fix it immediately and just do what's right. All right, guys, that's all I got for you guys. If you guys like this video, give it a like, and also leave me a comment on what your favorite tip was in this video. And if you think that I left anything out, I'll catch you guys in the next one.